getting out of an abusive relationship early makes a huge difference.
And I'm proud to say I did come in as a victim, but I am a survivor.
Then I could see my mom. My mom was walking toward us. And I got excited. And I was like, there's my mom. And then he didn't stop.
I'm trying to keep it together, I said. I gave in to the tears. And I hated that.
It's not necessarily the easiest process. It's not necessarily the prettiest process, but it is the most effective process. Like, you can do this. I'm going to tell you 100% you can do this, and you're so worth it to do this.
I'm sure losing any child is a real arrow through your heart, but you know, she was great. She was a friend and a family member and our daughter.
It feels just as good the 10th time as it did the first time, to have one of your citizens that you're out there protecting walk up and tell you thank you.
There is one thing stronger in me than fear, and that's my determination. Welcome back. This is Jen Lee, the creator and host of I Need Blue, Survivors Talk Surviving. Visit www.ineedblue.net for additional stories. As you listen, if the message moves you, share it with friends and family. The more we share, the more we learn, and the more we can help each other. Interested in being part of the message? Sponsorships and advertising packages are available online at www.ineedblue.net. Please note, I Need Blue does contain stories which feature graphic content and could be triggering. Please seek help if needed. Remember, you always come first. February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness and Prevention Month. Through a national effort, young people, their loved ones, and local organizations like Serene Harbor in Brevard County create awareness surrounding this issue. Dating violence is more common than you think. 1 in 3 teens in the U.S. will experience physical, sexual, or emotional abuse from someone they're in a relationship with. And that is just one of the sad statistics. Joining me today to discuss this topic is Michele Garcia, Program Director for Serene Harbor. Serene Harbor has served Brevard County for 30 years and offers more than 15 services and programs to assist survivors of domestic violence, including counseling and relocation services. They serve all survivors of domestic violence with their center services, their emergency shelter, which houses women, children, and pets. It is their job, but more so their passion, to ensure every individual has a safe place they can go to, whether that safe place is with them or somewhere else. Visit www.sereneharbor.org for full details. You will also find them listed under the Get Help tab on my website, www.ineedblue.net. Michele, thank you for being my guest today. Can you take a minute and share with the audience your experience and your passion for being a domestic violence advocate?
Thank you so much for such a great introduction and for allowing me to be on your podcast today. As far as experiences go and my passion, they go hand in hand. My passion is to always help anyone who needs assistance, always help someone find their voice, and to help be that voice when they're not ready. So with that, I've had that passion forever, my entire life. With that, I've been able to have many experiences throughout my entire time. I started with Serene Harbor back in 2012. Since then, I've been domestic violence, child welfare, case management, and bringing it all together and saying, what can we do better? What can we do differently? And through that, we've been able to actually work together with the survivor and say, we're not here to control you. We're here to say, how can we help you? You've been doing this your entire life. You've been the expert of your home. How can we help you with that? What do you need from us? And then that's how we've been able to grow as an agency. So that experience has been able to say, I've been able to see just someone just completely lost and feel like there's no way out of the harm and the worst of the worst for them, for their kiddos, for their pets, not knowing if they're going to live the next day, to actually help them say that, you know what, I am worth something. I'm worth better than this. I'm more than this. And I can have a life, and been able to actually help them safety plan through that and get to safety. The experience is to hear them actually say, I've never seen my kids be able to actually be kids. And for them to be able to actually just know that, you know, they can take that time to think about themselves and say, what do I want? Who am I? Right? Because I've been told to be someone else forever. So those are some great experiences that I have. And on an everyday basis, I get to see that and say, this is what we do this for.
That's great. Before we move on to our main topic of the teen dating violence, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yes, I see myself here at Serene Harbor still, and actually just with more growth. We've been growing so much. We're currently celebrating our 30th anniversary of Serene Harbor being here in the same area, Brevard County, same location. But now, just in the past 2 years, we have a plethora of services that on an outreach basis and residential. So 5 years from now, I would love to see us with just additional housing options. In Brevard County, we have a difficult time with housing and transportation and just any of those additional barriers that survivors have a tough time with. I see us being able to be able to combat them even more and just grow more. You know, I see me here, but just still fighting for survivors and advocating and making sure that all of our staff and the whole community, honestly, is just doing the same.
What is the greatest resource that you need? Like if somebody knocked on your door and said, I can give you one thing, what is it?
Housing. Housing. Give me just one thing. I think housing and transportation. I'm sorry. So it's housing and transportation. Those are the biggest things. They are. So that's the tough part. We have immediate housing, but you know, it's expensive for a survivor to be able to actually start on their own somewhere. And we have a relocation advocate that assists with that entire process, but it's still being able to have something or some place that's affordable for them to actually be able to live in, to be able to move into and have that self-sufficiency and sustain it. So affordable housing would be huge. And I said the transportation piece would be ideal as well, because then it gives them opportunity of being able to find a place near a job that they want to have, right? Be able to get their kiddos back and forth to school. So those two things would just remove a lot of the limitations that they have during their rebuild to self-sufficiency.
Okay, we've just put the word out.
Great.
Hopefully it'll work.
Yes.
And there are several different organizations that help domestic violence victims here in Melbourne, Florida, and you all are very special and have a purpose. Can you tell me how Serene Harbor is different?
Yes. So we are one of 41 certified centers in the state of Florida. So with that, we're bound by privilege and confidentiality, and it's a Florida state law that we can't disclose that information from that communication with that survivor. Everything that we do is empowerment based. So that's a part of it. They have that safe place with us that they don't have to worry about manipulation. They don't have to worry about someone finding out that they're trying to get help or trying to figure out what's going on. With that, we have all of our services are empowerment based. So we're not here to do anything to mirror an abusive partner's behaviors. That itself is already completely different and new. But then we also have our injunction for protection attorney. So that's completely different as well. Not every certified center actually has that. So within Brevard County, us being a certified center, we're the only one with that injunction for protection attorney. And that's that legal advice, legal representation for protection orders at no cost. And that's to survivors who've experienced domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, and stalking. And we have a pet kennel on site. So that's something that's still completely different than anyone else. No one in Brevard County, and it's very minimal throughout the state that actually have a pet kennel on site with their emergency shelter. So someone can flee with their kiddos and with their pets. Survivors who participate in our programs can get connected to a mentor to have their own mentor every step of their college education. And that college would actually be at no cost with Eastern Florida. So that would be tuition covered, books covered, and like I said, have that mentor every step of the way. Literally all of those things are so different than any other center. So
Thank you for sharing that. Shall we move on to our teen dating violence awareness and prevention? Since February, that is the month where awareness is created around that particular topic.
yes, absolutely.
Okay, my first question, and you and I discussed this, is what is the difference between domestic violence and teen dating violence?
Yes. So there are many, many similarities. And I'd say the difference would really just come with that the type of relationship, in the sense of, in domestic violence, because you typically live together as far as that intimate relationship that you have, then that other person that's abusing you has the ability to have more of that financial control over what you can and cannot do, can and cannot have to spend, as well as when you're residing with that person, they can confine you within those four walls. When it comes to the dating violence, and typically someone may not be living with that individual. They might be, as far as whether, when it comes to teen dating violence, especially, a lot of times those are, they might be classmates. So in that sense, they're not going back to that same home together for the most part. So I'd say those are huge differences, because at least they have a little bit of a leeway of being able to get more help than that person that's being confined to their home and completely isolated by that abusive partner. But the lethality, the amount of abuse that we see in teen dating violence versus domestic violence, if you didn't know the age of the person that was actually being abusive, you would think it was somebody that had been abusing people for many, many years. And then you find out that it's a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old who's doing this.
Yeah. And this is why one thing I learned that you all do is, in community outreach, you go into the schools, elementary schools, and you talk about what a healthy behavior looks like no matter what age. Can you share that with us?
Yes, absolutely. So yes, we go into the schools and we've gone to the schools and discussed from second grade to seventh grade. We've done as far as teens that are juniors and seniors, and those discussions are all modified based on the age group, but about those behaviors as far as interactions with each other to begin with, right? It's outside of intimate partner violence, outside of that intimate relationship as well, because we want to plant those seeds of the youth learning what healthy behaviors just are altogether, right? When it comes to sharing, when it comes to your personal space, when it comes to your emotions, right? How you react if you're angry or upset. What does that look like? How someone else reacts when they're feeling that way towards you. Making sure that they have a healthy adult that they can be able to speak with, a non-judgmental healthy adult. And more often, youth will actually speak to other youth about trauma that they've endured before they even speak to an adult about it. Planting a seed is so essential, because it's essential to the prevention of the youth actually experiencing teen dating violence, which also works towards preventing domestic violence.
Yeah, that's very true. When you told me you all kind of do that prevention, I thought that was really great. Growing up, we didn't have those types of classes or talks. Let's talk about behaviors that are exhibited for somebody who is not familiar with domestic violence. The behaviors look like?
From the outside, you might notice that if that person is being victimized, and say it's a friend of yours or a family member, all of a sudden they may be not really showing up to different kind of family affairs that you might be having, not showing up to, say, every year you had a tradition of going to the fair together as family or with all your group of friends. And now all of a sudden there's always a reason or excuse why that person can't attend. And most often it's that abusive partner is actually working towards that isolation and keeping them from family and friends. The abusive partner doesn't want that individual that they're victimizing, that survivor, to have any connection to someone that can tell them you don't deserve this and you deserve better. Someone that's being abused may not feel as highly of themselves as they once did before. They might question themselves more often now, because that abusive partner is planting seeds in their head on a constant basis, telling them that they're not worthy, they're not worth enough.
A lot of relationships go through that honeymoon stage, and it doesn't matter whether you're a teenager or an adult. So can you kind of go through that cycle of what it looks like in the beginning and how that progresses?
Absolutely. What you want to always keep in mind is that at the very beginning of the abuse, that abusive partner is doing everything to manipulate you. They know that they're trying to have that power and control over you from the very beginning. So they can use different tactics of making you feel guilty or ashamed for missing their phone call because they've called you several times. So they'll try to make you feel as though, you missing their call, they were so upset, they were so worried. And then the next time that you're missing their call, it's, you were with someone else. How could you do this? Are you cheating on me? So you can see that escalation happening, but their whole point of doing the things like that are to get you to keep your phone on you at all times, to never miss their call. So they're gaining that control over you and what you do. They're always going to make you feel bad, make you feel like you deserve that hurt, and try to turn everything around and twist it around. All of your words, they're going to twist around to make it seem as though you're the reason for that pain. You're the reason for the abuse, and make it seem as though you're hurting them as opposed to what they're actually doing to hurt you. But making up their own reasoning behind it, as if they're trying to spend more time with you, that they had plans that they made for the two of you that you never even knew of. But all of a sudden, it's always a surprise, right? Unwelcomed or unwanted favors. So you can have someone at the beginning of that relationship, and it seems so sweet for them to, bring you lunch or to take you out for lunch on your first day of a new job, right? So it seems like a very sweet gesture, or to give you flowers or roses. But now all of a sudden they're doing it all the time. And when you want to actually go out and have lunch with with your friends, it's a problem because they're like, well, you don't want to spend time with me. I'm taking, I scheduled this out or made an appointment with you, or, I made arrangements or reservations. And it shouldn't be something, if it's a healthy relationship, someone's not going to make you feel bad about something that's supposed to be a gift, right? Anyone that's doing anything, it's always purposeful when it comes to power and control, but they're going to mask it to be things that are in your best interest. And everything is going to be at the very beginning that it's in your best interest and for you, and they're putting you ahead of themselves. And then you'll start to notice as that escalates that it's really not about you. It's completely about them and what they want, what they're trying to achieve. Been perfectly self-sufficient with your finances prior to meeting this individual, but then they were able to convince you that they've got a better grip on finances, and whether they made investments or whatever that is, but they're going to give you reasons to why they should be the one controlling the money now.
And that's so true. I dated someone for a little while, and in the beginning, there was lots of texts and phone calls, and it was like, oh, I'm having a bad day, and you're my sunshine, and, I just had to talk to you, and all of these things. And then there were just more texts and more phone calls, and it was a long distance relationship. But eventually I realized that he was actually keeping tabs on me, because it would be like, oh, what are you going to do today? How was work? And I just thought he was being really sweet, really cared. And I was like, wow, somebody that really wants to know what's going on. But no, there wasn't ulterior motives. You're exactly right. And those things happen without you even realizing it. And so I'm sure you find one thing when dealing with survivors is there's a lot of that kind of guilt. Like, how did I not know? How did I not see this? But I'm telling you, it's slow and it's subtle.
Absolutely.
And you don't know till like you're in head deep. Let me ask you this. Teen dating violence, because we know there are several different forms of violence. You have mental abuse, emotional abuse, sexual, physical, whatnot. What do you find is most prevalent when it comes to teenage dating violence?
I'd say the psychological. The psychological is what gets coupled with the emotional, right? Because it plays the same effect on you. It's those, and that's even as far as with domestic violence. So keep that in mind, because it starts with that person playing games with your mind to begin with. So even in the example that you just gave, right? Those are all those mind games. So in teen dating violence, especially, The youth, they're going through those ages and stages of learning themselves to begin with. So as they're learning themselves, they're not even, at a point to be fully confident in that part yet, right? If you think back to your youth, and especially as the closer you get to 16 and 17, it's like, oh, I'm grown now, right? So as you're getting that thought process happening because you're learning yourself more, as you have an unhealthy person that's a part of your life and their whole purpose is to have that power and control over you because that's what they've learned from the people around them, then they're going to continue to, like, they're going to plant their seeds within that. And, so that teen is going to tell that other teen their ideas are bad, right? It's like, well, why would you want to go do that? That's really like, that's rude, or you shouldn't want to go do that. That's not cool. I thought you wanted to spend time with me. During that age already, there's already bullying that happens, just with, you have the popular kids, the unpopular kids, however you want to look at that. Bullying is already so prevalent. So then when you have that person that has manipulated their way into your life and you think that that's somebody that I can actually trust, and they purposely say and do things to get you to open up to them and be vulnerable and tell them about your secrets that you might have, especially at a teen, and you're trying to figure out yourself. Well, now that person in that teen dating relationship is going to threaten to expose that to the whole school or to your family or to your friends. They haven't had, like, as an adult, you have a lot of years that you can have built up to where you might know who you are already at that point. You've had experiences. But as a teen, you really don't have a whole lot of life experience in front of you.
Statistics have shown that with COVID, domestic violence, there's been an increase. What have you noticed in regards to the teen dating? Because for a while there, they didn't go to school. So how did that affect teen dating?
Without them being in school, and if they're at home with just their family and friends, it's more opportunity for that abusive teen partner to want to monopolize even more of that time, control more of that other teen's time. And because they're being homeschooled, they're not going out. And especially if that, the family of that survivor, that teen survivor, isn't letting them out. Because if they're being extremely COVID conscious and they're like, well, no, you can't go to these places, that abusive team is going to try to convince them to sneak out, to go against, what their family rules are, all of those things, and twist it when they don't and make it seem like it's because they don't love them, because they don't care enough for that abusive partner. So they twist that a lot. And we've seen teens as far as like on the brink of suicide because of what that other teen, that abusive teen partner has been telling them, because of the shame, the guilt that they enforce upon this other individual. So the kind of things that we see when it comes to teens and adults, it's been so much more lethal, so much more dangerous during COVID, especially during the lockdown times, because they weren't able to get out. So then they were stuck in the homes with those individuals who are victimizing them. And then for the teens who don't live in that home, they're getting and escalated threats of what can happen if they don't sneak out, right? What can happen if they don't use social media in inappropriate ways to send pictures that they don't want to send. And so abusive teens are using social media more and just the virtual platforms to try to get what they want, which they're going to use against that person.
Mm-hmm. So during the height of COVID, did you see people coming to the shelter more or less because maybe they were afraid to leave their house because of COVID? Maybe that kept them a little bit captive as well.
Yes, we have had individuals that wouldn't want to leave and some that eventually would. We have continued to stay as far as with, being full and at capacity because of those reasons. So we're constantly bringing individuals in and seeing, what services are available as far as for anybody. And that's because, yes, you have that fear of, being in a communal environment during COVID, but then it's that safety planning that we do to help that individual to be ready to leave when they're ready, because they have to feel comfortable and safe no matter what. And if that threat in that home is much more stronger than the community platform during COVID, then, they opened up and were able to come in. The survivors coming in during COVID, and especially during the lockdown times, are much more near death when they first call us to come in than prior to COVID.
That's even more the reason that, what you do is so helpful to the community. So thank you for that.
No problem. Thank you. And thank you for having me here so we can spread awareness.
Oh, absolutely. Have you ever had a teenager come to the domestic violence shelter on their own without their mom? Like just that recognized I need help, and maybe they felt they couldn't go to their mom or they didn't have a trusting adult, but they knew you were there. And so they came to you for help. Has that ever happened?
We haven't had them come on site, but we have had them call our hotline. We wouldn't be able to just bring a teen into shelter at all, because as far as just with the laws itself, the teen would actually have to be emancipated and have the document for that, because you couldn't assist the teen as far as with leaving their home. But what we could do is always still be there 24 hours a day by hotline itself, being able to point them in the right directions for additional supports that can help them with what's going on as well. And we have assisted teens with being able to find that healthy adult that they could speak with, where we've been able to provide counseling as far as for the adults to help them understand as far as what the teens are going through, as we're helping the teen through what they've been going through as well. So we have had great success in that, and just completely been able to watch these teens, their lives just completely turn around from all of the abuse and all of the breakdowns and the psychological and emotional games that the abusive partner has played, to where we've been able to see those teens go from just a dark, dark place, the darkest place ever, to just being full of light and full of life again, and being able to just excel in life and know that they are valuable. Everything that this person has been saying to them is not true. And that's another thing to always keep in mind, is that if someone is taking so much time to just fill your head with all of these negative things about you, it's more than likely not true, because they've got to try so hard at getting you to believe something that's so wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So just always remembering that they're putting a whole lot of work into this. If I was really that bad off, it would be easy, right? Because it's really relevant. But no, nobody deserves abuse at all.
Right. Can you give the hotline number?
Absolutely. It's 321-726-8282. And you can reach our hotline advocates via text, call, or TTY, as well as on our website, which is www.sereneharbor.org. We have a live chat on there as well. All of the platforms to get to that hotline advocate, who's a certified and trained advocate, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, holidays, hurricanes, it does not matter. Our advocates are trained and certified, and they're there to answer every call, regardless of how it comes through.
That's great. And as Michele said, that it doesn't matter what age you are, you can always call that hotline, and somebody will be there to direct you to the appropriate resource.
Because also when calling our hotline, that advocate that answers, that person is there certified and trained to assist them right then and there. So the first thing they're asking, one, they're thanking them for calling the line, because it takes a lot to just call to get help. But then they're also making sure the very next thing is asking them if they're safe. And we build from there, because they're doing safety planning with them, listening to what they need, and going from there.
So when somebody comes to your shelter, what happens next?
Okay. That actually is based on the person. So when they come in, the advocate is sitting with them, going through an assessment of identifying things that they need. They're actually finding out that information over the phone before they even come in. They're creating a safety plan with them right on the hotline before they even get to shelter, to ensure a solid plan so they can safely get there, because the most dangerous time is when someone decides to leave, because it severs that power and control. And then when we come in, we add to that safety plan with them. We're getting to know more about what they've experienced, what's going on, so we can better assist them with the plan that they've been already doing the entire time. We identify as far as needs with them, their goals, their needs, their wants for them, for their children, for their pets, and being able to help connect them to our staff. We have an adult case manager, a child case manager, a relocation advocate, basically an expert in every seat to help them along their journey with whatever goals are that they identified.
And that's great, because I can't imagine what it would be like for somebody who is in that situation, already thinking about the fear of if they leave, and if they have children and pets, and getting all of that together, and then having to wonder, okay, I'm leaving all of this and I don't know what I'm walking into. So by you sharing the process, hopefully it will give some comfort to those people who are like just on the edge of making that final step.
Absolutely.
But obviously what you all do is I mean, I love that the first thing you said is that it's based on the individual.
Thank you. Also, on our website itself, if you go to sereneharbor.org, under About Us, a little bit down the page, there's actually a video. It's a virtual tour of our shelter as far as the outside and the inside. So then that's something that if you're ever wondering, is that something that I can do? What does it look like, right? Because the unknown is scary. Prior to me ever being in the field, I thought that just a shelter was what you see on TV as far as a huge room with tons of cot beds. But that's not us. So when you look at our video, you'll see that we do have shared rooms, we do have bunk beds, but they're actually rooms, and we have a playroom, we have an outdoor area, we have an animal park area, a playground, all right on site.
What is the percentage of people that come to you looking for help and end up then going back to the abuser?
I would say that over time and just my experience as far as in this field and with survivors, the more that we have grown, especially the past 2 years of all the support that we've been able to provide, not only if they walk through our doors, but even stay with them afterwards on that outreach basis, it's the chances have been less and less of that individual going back. And even so, we know even if they're contemplating going back, because on average it's 7 to 8 times that someone can go back to the abusive partner. So even that individual, they know that we're safety planning with them, and if they're going to go back, they can speak with us about that because we're not going to judge them either way. Instead, we're going to safety plan with them for it and always let them know that, you know what, we're always going to be here. Our resources are always available to you. We're just one phone call, one text, one TTY message away. That's it. We're 24 hours, no matter what your decision is.
Mm-hmm. And how do you deal with the people who come to your shelter and decide they don't want your resources anymore? It's got to be hard, like an emotional roller coaster, to see them come in and take that step, which is so hard, and to kind of work through the process and then just get to the point where they're like, I'm going to go back. How hard is that? How do you deal with that?
With that, by just always knowing that every opportunity that we have with someone, it's an opportunity to educate, advocate, and empower. It is, and that even became our tagline: educate, advocate, empower. And that's really it, honestly. So of course you don't ever want to see someone go back to the abuse or go back through, that hurt that they've been going through. But that's why it's so essential from that first phone call that we have with them and every moment to just always be how we are, just non-judgmental, here to listen. We're going to actively listen at all times because what they say is important. And know that if they're going to go back, that's okay too. It doesn't mean that because you're going to make that decision that we don't want to work with you anymore. No, that is okay, because it's when that person is ready, then they're ready. And there's so many reasons why someone stays and why someone goes back. But no matter what the reason, we're always going to be here.
That's great. Friends and family are not trained in how to handle when they see someone they love in an abusive relationship. What advice would you give to them?
I would say to take a deep breath, and maybe even 4 deep breaths. I always say that even to a survivor that's going through something, 4 deep breaths, because the first 2 always rushed when you have a lot of emotion and things going on. So the same thing for family and friends, just take those deep breaths. Remind yourself that you don't want to push that person away, especially if they opened up to you about it, right? So making sure not to push your opinions and your wants on that individual. It's about their needs, their wants, their time, what's right for them. So just listen and then be able to tell them that, it's okay, right? That they're speaking with you about it, and thank them for that. And always give them the hotline number. Let them know, like, look, there's a local support area, that they're non-judgmental. They can't tell your business to anyone. That's where our privilege comes in at. So always reminding them, you can call this advocate. They're 24 hours. You can text them. They cannot tell your business. I won't even know your business. If I'm giving you that number, they can't tell me. So just reminding them of that, so that they know that there's somebody that can assist, because that's where we're the experts in, right? As far as we're the experts in safety planning, on resources, all of that. But that safety planning is so essential. So that's the biggest part for family and friends, is actively listen, being able to point that individual in the right direction for support that's available to them at all times, and making sure that you're not trying to mirror or not mirroring any of the abusive partner's behaviors. So if you're trying to put, as I said, your wants for that person on them, you're not doing anything different than that abusive partner. You're trying to control what they do or what they don't do, and they're going to shut down, and that's not okay. Keep that door open. Let them know that, you don't want them to hurt either, but they're the expert of what they're going through, and you're going to be a support no matter what.
Yes. And what are the circumstances behind a case going to court?
When we're looking at, I spoke about our injunction for protection attorney earlier. So with that, when someone decides that they're going to file for an injunction for protection, whether it's for dating violence, stalking, sexual assault, or domestic violence.
Is that the same as a restraining order?
Yes, absolutely. Different areas call it different things. But here in Brevard, it definitely is. It's an injunction protection, is a restraining order, and it's actually in civil court. So a lot of times, if the police were called out, the criminal restraining order, that no contact order, that's all in the criminal case, right? And that's based on how that criminal case goes. So an injunction for protection itself, that's through civil court. So what that means is that when this is filed within the court, the person's not going to be arrested just because you get this filed or because the judge court orders it. Instead, the person gets arrested if they violate it. When someone decides that they're going to file for this injunction, for that no contact order, it's extremely traumatic because now if I'm that survivor and I'm going to file for this injunction, I have to write down every single thing that has happened, all the harm that this abuser has caused, all the threat of harm that they've caused or that they've done, as well as how it's affected me, how it's affected my kids. I have to write all of this down, and then they get a copy of it. So if the judge approves it or appends it into a court, that abusive partner gets a copy of every single thing that I wrote down of the history of the abuse. So that's where our injunction for protection attorney comes in at. She's able to assist with that filing process, with all of that, and is actually able to represent that individual in court also. Because when going to court, now not only did that abusive partner get everything written up of all of the worst, best kept secrets that they coerced you into not telling anybody about, but then you have to go in front of them in court. And then if they've been restricting all the finances to where now they have an attorney and you don't, now you feel even worse and more defeated before you even get to the courtroom. So our attorney can actually help represent as well, so that this way you're not alone, and she's going to be that voice in that courtroom to stand up for you and make sure that you're heard.
That's huge. Yeah, because like you said, just number one, finding the courage to write it down, but then knowing that it's going to the abuser is just got to be very scary, but also very courageous.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for that person to do that. So thank you for sharing that information. I think that that's really important. Can we talk about sparkling ice?
Yes. So sparkling ice, a nationwide, like a sweepstakes, basically, where all of the customers of sparkling ice were able to write in stories to them and be able to identify agencies that have assisted or have done great things in the community. And 3 stories got submitted to Sparkling Ice during their sweepstakes about Serene Harbor. So out of 6,000 entries nationwide, our Serene Harbor was actually identified as one of 3 agencies to receive awards from Sparkling Ice. So that was just amazing, amazing. A family and friends actually wrote in about their experiences as far as with what Serene Harbor and all of our staff and services have been able to do with the family and all of the greatness that we were able to do to help keep someone safe. Like I said, just on an everyday basis, and especially that nationwide. And I said, we've been here for 30 years, our little Serene Harbor, but we're a strong but mighty team. We are. So we're able to actually just sit down and say, we know that we made an impact, but for someone to write into just a nationwide thing about the great impact and positive impact that we've had, on a survivor, that's just amazing.
Yeah, that's great. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Orange is the color for the month of February that corresponds to Teen Dating Violence Awareness and Prevention. So make sure you get lots of orange. Let's talk about local events that you all have going on. I went to Brunch and Bubbly, and let me tell you, that was fun and yummy. And that was my first experience with Serene Harbor and being able to participate in one of their community events. And it was a lot of fun. So can you share with us maybe the next one you have coming up?
Yes, thank you. And yes, that was a great event. So we tend to have as far as a few signature events a year. And right now we actually have 2 events that are coming up. And one is our Pause for a Cause. It's our 3rd annual Pause for a Cause 5K run and walk. And that'll actually be May 22nd at Wickham Park. It's a pet-friendly walk, by the way. So as you'll see as far as the flyers for it, you'll see a picture of our Lily. So another thing that makes us different than anybody is we have a comfort dog, and she's a little mini schnauzer, and her name is Lily. She's a little yapper as well, but she was actually identified through the Paws and Stripes program as being a perfect fit for what we do and those that we serve. And then you'll also see, if you go on our on our website underneath events, you'll get more information as well, because we have a headshots and hairdos that will be coming up as well. And we did get a chance to do that last year. So being able to actually just have your headshot done and right on site, we have great stylists that are out there, and they've done makeup and hair and gotten you right there and ready for the photographer to be able to take your headshot there. And that just a fun time. So the fun that you had at the Bubbly Brunch and Bags, we have that with every event.
That is great.
Always remembering that, like I said, our hotline 321-726-8282 is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, where a certified trained advocate is always available to answer at all times. Our website itself has that secure chat available as well. And just celebrating our 30th anniversary this month with us. So you'll see a lot of information just going out. Our events will be able to host that as well, because we're very proud to be here for 30 years serving survivors in Brevard County. So everything that we can do to be able to help provide that safety. And you're going to see a lot of orange for February for Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. And as we go through the year, you'll see different things, tons of social media posts as far as for that. If you catch us through the month, you'll see lots of that. You'll see statistics. You'll see us going around to different agencies, taking pictures. So if you want to put your orange on and snap a picture and send it to us, you're more than welcome to do so. The more we can go ahead and spread awareness so that survivors can know, whether they're teens, whether they're adults, just know that we care. And we wear orange because we care, and say that, you know what, it's out there. And it doesn't, the violence and the trauma that you go through, it doesn't define you. You define you. And you're so much more and so much better than anything that anybody else has ever told you, because you are valuable, you're worth it, and you're worthy to not ever be hurt or go through any pain at all. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Big thank you to Michele Garcia and Serene Harbor for your 30 years of service to our community, helping everyone see their inner beauty and feel safe. Thank you so much for that. This is Jen Lee with the I Need Blue podcast. I can be found at www.ineedblue.net and all of your favorite podcast platforms. Until next time, remember, you are stronger than you think.